Morning, everybody. My name is Mike Green. I'm with NTE Energy. It doesn't stand for nighttime energy or anything. It's the initials of the three children of our founder, Noah, Tommy, and Elsa. That answers the first question. So when the football starts to get passed around, I think I figured that one out. I want to talk to you a little bit about the transition period that I think the utility and the energy infrastructure is in today. I've heard a lot of talk from Carl this morning and last night about the utility transformation. NTE is a relatively small but growingly successful independent power producer, and I'll use what we've done in North Carolina as a prime example of a way to help that transition from the traditional vertically integrated electric infrastructure model to something that would give the wholesale customers more freedom and more flexibility on attaining their sustainability goals, while still working within the current regulatory structure. We can't ignore the fact that the structure is what the structure is, and we're trying to work out a way to work within that structure today. I'm a graduate of the University of Tennessee in 1972. I say that for two reasons. Number one, I'm pretty old. And number two, we'll be welcoming Appalachian State to the friendly confines of Neyland Stadium in 44 days. So, welcome you. I'm also standing between you and a break. So, I'll probably go through just a few slides and hopefully have time for questions and everything else at the end of it. And I didn't get instructions on how to use this, but I've learned it. There you go. Sustainability pledges, lots of different definitions of sustainability. Last night from Avery, from Mr. McKimmon, from Carl this morning. Basically, sustainability is the ability to, in my definition, is to work within the future that's given today in a way that's going to sustain the future for our children and our grandchildren. I've got 9 grandchildren, all granddaughters, believe it or not. A lot of what I've been doing for the last 10 years to help figure out a way to help sustain that for them. There's a lot of compatibility between independent power producers, missions, vision statements, goals, and what the sustainability pledges are of a lot of communities. You know, NTE Energy's mission is to provide reliable, efficient power for a cleaner America. Again, that cleaner America is the tie-in. NTE has got 3 separate factions, companies. NTE Development, which is what I'll talk about mostly today, is the one that's looking at developing power generation that will help the communities meet their sustainability goals. We've also got a company called NTE Solutions, which provides innovative engineering solutions to a lot of problems. For example, we've helped a developer identify a way to get a better desalination project in Florida using the once-through cooling on Florida Power and Light's once-through cooling on the coast. It's warmer water, much better to do the desalination on the warmer water, so we've helped with that process. We've also got a company called NTE Hybrid. We've got 3 patents for a biomass burning technology, which basically can replace the need for auxiliary boilers on many combined cycle and other type plants that have to burn fossil fuels that are needed to keep the HRSGs, the boilers, and the combustion turbines and the steam turbines warm during off hours. I think Carl talked about the little peak they had in the 10 o'clock hours because when they fire up from a cold start, they're not very clean. This hybrid technology can help keep them warm so they can fire up faster and you don't have that bump. I think Avery last night talked about, I think it was Avery or Bill, one of them talked about the many Pac-Mans that are around eating at the current infrastructure. I'd like to think what we're doing with NTE Energy and the IP market is one of those Pac-Mans. But at 260 pounds, I've never been called a Pac-Man, so I don't know. Like I say, I'll tend to ramble on this. Mike Bradley was going to give this presentation, and I hope this is taped because I'm much better looking and far more articulate than Mike Bradley ever was. So Mike, if this gets taped, I'm saying this for you. Yeah, the alternative to the status quo, as we've heard, the vertically integrated utility, they're very large. They've been in business for 100 years. They have a regulatory model, and we've heard how they own the generation, the transmission. They serve both wholesale and retail customers. But the difference is, at least in North Carolina, wholesale customers can seek alternatives. Retail customers in this state cannot, but wholesale customers can. So within that regulatory framework, we're looking for ways to offer some alternatives. The rates in the vertically integrated utility, I'll say Duke. And I know this because, I worked 31 years with Duke Energy before I left and started out of my own IPP business. I know how the investor-owned utility works. I know what you can and cannot do within that framework. But the investor-owned utilities, they have no incentive to help you attain your sustainability goals. I got many friends at Duke Energy, but they have no incentive to help you. And that's what we're hoping that the IPPs, and in our case NTE, can help offer you some alternatives. We're privately owned. We're not a public utility. We will own our electric generation, some of it thermal, because we're within the current confines of what's commercially viable today, but with a goal of looking at the renewable market in the future. Contracts are not regulated by the state. The contracts that we come up with, and I'll talk about the various cities in North Carolina that have signed up for us, with us. Those contracts are not regulated by the state. And we can gear a contract for the city of Boone through New River Light and Power, or the city of Kings Mountain, or the city of Concord, North Carolina, or Greenwood, South Carolina. We can structure those contracts for their specific needs, for their specific priorities, and for their specific schedules and how they want to attain their sustainability and renewable goals. It gives us a lot of flexibility with our customers, and that flexibility has proved to be extremely valuable. See, I got to hit the right button to go forward. There I go. How does this business model work? We bring in project equity, project debt, and we look at all different types of generating technologies. A lot of the investor-owned utilities say, well, be careful going with these IPPs. They're not very financially solid. They don't have the great balance sheet that we at the big utility have. In our case, we have one equity partner that has Guggenheim that's got $255 billion of assets under management. By comparison, Duke's got a market cap of about $55 billion. So we've got financial legs that we can stand on. These are secure facilities. Fuel supply. If you are looking to have some component of thermal generation, in our case, we are looking at the most efficient gas combined cycle plants in the Southeast. That's what we're put one in Kings Mountain. We've got another one in Reidsville, North Carolina, in development. They are the most efficient, the cleanest, though they are gas, power plants in the Southeast. But we have the ability to hedge fuel. We have the ability to let our customers hedge fuel. We have lots of flexibility on these fuel arrangements that the investor-owned utility cannot offer to their wholesale customers today. Again, more flexibility for the customer. Again, power purchase agreements. We've got lots of different power purchase agreements for New River Light and Power has a very aggressive sustainability goal. So we structured that contract to allow New River to get as much solar, wind, other renewable resources to meet their needs as they can possibly get, and we will help them get there. We will offset that while we're getting there with this most efficient combined cycle gas plant, which still offsets a tremendous amount of coal generation in the state today. Just a little bit about NTE Energy, we're a relatively small company. We've got $1.3 billion of assets under construction now, and we got 30 people. We're a small company, but as I said, growingly successful. Our main office is in St. Augustine, Florida. Why St. Augustine, Florida? The founder, that's where he used to vacation, that's where he wanted to be. So he's in St. Augustine, Florida. Our engineering is up in Boston. Our commercial folks that do the fuel supply contracts and the off-taker contracts with the utilities and the municipalities and the co-ops and the schools is in Atlanta. We've got, as I said, we've got 2 sites under construction, Kings Mountain Energy Center and obviously Kings Mountain. We got one up in Ohio. We've got a second one being developed in Ohio, a second one here in Rockingham County, North Carolina. We're looking at one in Florida. We've got a peaker plant in Texas to assist with the wind generation out in West Texas. And the reason Mike Bradley's not here, he's up in Connecticut at a site we were looking at up there. NTE won't let me go north of the Mason-Dixon line, so I couldn't go up there. I got this, or Mike put this slide up. We got this slide up here, which names the 5 key folks that have kind of joined as, I would call them the core customer group. And I want to give credit to New River Light and Power, Ed Miller, specifically. His foresight to join the Nick Hendrickses, who I think is here somewhere with Kings Mountain, and Steve Reeves with Greenwood, South Carolina, and Bob Pate with the City of Concord, and folks at Winterville. They collaborated, and collectively we met with all of them, figured out how can we cobble up their needs, their goals, their energy needs in a way that would make them leave the 105 years they've had with Duke Energy. So I give great credit. You're very lucky to have folks like Ed Miller and New River Light and Power to help you get your goals. They're figuring out a way to help you get there while withstanding the realities of the current. These sustainable power purchase agreements, again, cost reduction, economics, significant savings on what we can provide them energy for the next 20 years. Price certainty. There's no chance of any rate case going up. There's no chance of any municipality or customer getting hit with coal ash settlements. We don't have coal. We don't have any rate cases. We've offered the flexibility to each city. They can have a flat rate for the next 20 years. They can low end now and have it rise at a certain rate. They can high end it now and have it fall over 20 years. But individually structured contracts for each one. Reliability, we've got ACES, which is just an energy management group in Raleigh, who also manages all the assets of North Carolina Electric Membership Cooperative. They will be the backup. So we've got all the same backups throughout the Southeast that all the major generators have. In fact, it's even better than what Duke has, because Duke backs up their system with their system. We back up our goals with everything in the Southeast, TVA, Virginia Power, Santee Cooper, SCAG, everybody else. And I guess the key to all this is the renewable implementation. I don't think I had on that map, but I'm leaving this afternoon. We've got 6 sites identified in North Carolina for solar facilities. The transition for the IPP market has definitely begun. We're looking at putting 60 megawatts of solar into the state of North Carolina in the next couple years. And I would say that much of that will be coming to Appalachian State and New River Light Power. Part of our contract with them is we will help them get as much solar power as they want to get. Their load isn't 60 megawatts, so I've got needs for us, some more of it, don't worry. Just a pretty picture of the Kings Mountain Energy Center, a combined cycle gas plant, but it's there to be a firm capacity resource for New River, for Appalachian State, for the other customers we have in our contract. as you go through this transition. I think several folks called it the utility transformation. As you go through that transformation, this is a stopgap till you get there. It's at exit 5 on I-85 down there near Kings Mountain. It's a great site, but tying into Duke Energy's system grid, and it is the backstop for the future transformation. Again, I'll leave it at this and kind of open up for questions. Again, we're IPP markets, NTE Energy, we're in that transition just like the vertically integrated utility market is. We're in that transition from going from the cleanest thermal generation that's available today in these combined cycle plants, taking advantage of the lowest gas prices that this country's ever seen in this transition as we go to more wind, more solar, and everything else. With that, I thank you for your time. I thank the school for putting this on, and NTE is very proud to be one of the sponsors for the event and look forward to a long-standing relationship. And I'll take questions. I just like that football with no points. I like that thing they're throwing around. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
To what extent are you able to, or are you taking advantage of using your plants to help the grid through ancillary services, demand response, frequency regulation, things like that? Where you're located, are you able to do that?
On the ancillary services, there's, we are a wholesale generator, and that by FERC law, by federal law, that's as far as we can go. We can offer up efficient alternatives to the generation marketplace. Once we get that energy on the grid, it's up to the transmission and distribution providers to do all the other ancillary services. So we're pretty much limited to putting the generation on the grid at this time in the current structure. It's really hard to see out there. There's lights up here.
Thank you.
We got one over there too. Yes, sir.
2 questions. Duke University is now facing an internal conflict over a contract which they are writing with Duke Power relative to a cogen operation that has a term, as I read in the paper, of some 50 years. Can I ask what the term of this contract is? And the second part of that question is that while natural gas is often touted as a clean fuel, its climate changing potential over its 12-and-a-half-year life is 150 times worse than coal because of the leakage in the natural gas system, independent of what you're doing. You can't control it. It's just part of the system. I wonder if you could speak to those 2 points.
Yeah, I guess I'll take the last one first. The natural gas system is not, the natural gas generation is not clean per se, but it's a heck of a lot cleaner than the coal plants up there at Blues Creek, at Design, and some of the other ones in the States and in the region. The environmental effects of it are much better than some of the coal plants, and we see it as a step in the right direction, but it's just a transitional step. The fact that the cost of gas is low is because there's an abundant supply on the interstate pipelines today from all the various sources, whether it be coming in from the Gulf Coast or where it's coming down from Pennsylvania or something like that. North Carolina is in this what they call a null point on the interstate pipelines, where they're a balance. The flow from the north and the flow from the south is right here, and the supply is immense. The contracts we talk about, I think we've got a 17-year contract with New River, and somebody might have to correct me. I think we got 20 years with some of the others. We've looked at 10-year contracts, some of the others. We can only talk to wholesale customers in the state of North Carolina that have contracts expiring with Duke. And so different folks have signed up for different length contracts for different times. And what we are doing is targeting those municipalities, co-ops, and some others that have contracts with Duke that are expiring in about the 2021, 22 timeframe. So those are but yeah, we're open. About 10-year contracts, about as short as you can get financed in the private equity markets. You've got to show a revenue stream to finance the projects. So. Does that answer your questions, though? Well, yeah, I think difference of opinion perhaps, but we are in a transition period. We can't cut the switch and tomorrow be 100% solar and 100% wind. We've got to figure out how to get to that goal. And so there is a transition period that we've got to take the best of what we got available today. And I'm a strong proponent of nuclear ought to be a part of the generation mix. I mean, it's non-polluting. It's got spent fuel issues, but I designed 4 nuclear plants, and they are environmentally good other than the spent fuel. We just need to figure out how to do the spent fuel. I think right now, natural gas combined cycle, taking the exhaust heat, generating steam out of the exhaust heat, and turning another steam turbine while the combustion process turning a combustion turbine, getting 2 turbines spinning for the same molecule of gas being burned is probably the best thing we got going today. Yes, sir. It's over there somewhere.
Actually got the mic over here.
Yeah. Let's say New River and all the customers that we serve are network customers of Duke Energy, or in this case, Blue Ridge Co-op. That transmission service will not change. That transmission provider, Duke Energy, still is remain. And by federal law, they have to transmit that electricity regardless where the generation comes from. So we put the generation on the grid, and the transmission distribution takes care of it from there. So where your connection points are on the grid, that doesn't change. The way we charge it, we have a capacity payment, which I guess you'd call it demand. It's $1 per kilowatt of capacity, gives each of the customers the rights to call in as much energy up to that point. And then it's a straight pass-through on the energy. If the energy comes from the Kings Mountain Energy Center plant, it's the cost of fuel times the efficiency of the plant. But we also have the energy manager, ACES, who's out there on an hourly basis looking for anything that can beat that generation, whether it be for environmental reasons or whether it be for cost considerations. For example, on the weekends, the Kings Mountain Energy Center likely won't run because there's a lot of nuclear energy dumped on the grid. So Appalachian State will get the benefit of that reduced economics and better environmental considerations. If there's some solar or wind available from wherever, and Appalachian State wants to get that in lieu of the combined cycle gas, and they have the option to do that. Lots of flexibility. I can see your hand.
Hello.
Hello.
So my question is, for one of these plants like Kings Mountain Energy Center, how much of the energy would be coming from renewable sources versus how much would be coming from natural gas? I know you said that it's flexible so people can choose, but for a center like this, what kind of is the breakdown?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the breakdown on what again? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Of natural gas versus renewable sources, what is the percentage of each?
Well, let's say it's a 500 or 475 megawatt gas plant. I'm looking at putting 60 megawatts right now of solar. So right now that percentage is, much more weighted towards combined cycle gas, but the growth in the solar is there. It takes a lot of acreage to put solar on the ground. Some can argue, some of y'all may know more than me, I'd say 6 to 8 acres per megawatt. So to put 60 megawatts of solar on the ground I need about 450 acres of usable flat, non-wetland, non-rocky, non-treed acreage. A lot of people don't want the side of a mountain filled up with solar panels. So we've got to find those right places to put these solar panels. I'm quite frankly looking at 5 or 6 sites because I think I'm going to do it more geographically dispersed so we can take advantage of if it's cloudy in Fayetteville, it might not be cloudy in Henderson County. Right now, the percentage Kings Mountain and solar is 475 to 60, with a growing rate of solar coming up. Somebody said last one because I'm standing between you and a break. So.
Catching this is really exciting. I was wondering if you had considered virtual PPAs or physical PPAs when you're looking at solar opportunities.
Yeah, we will. We've got to get the solar plants sited. We've got to get them financed. We've got to. There is a large appetite for solar in the state. We are looking at how to structure those contracts for the offtake. Whether it be virtual or whether it be a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year firm deal. First step is to get them sited. Second is to get them financed. And third, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. We can't talk about a contract for solar till I got a plant and got it financed and got it started. No one wants to talk about a solar plant that I might have 4 years from now. They want to see it's financed and the permits are received. But we're looking at all those options. So. I think that'll do it. Thank you very much.